Red light camera report.
Okay, you'll find in your packet that there is a updated report from Chief Hahn regarding the red light cameras. I assume that report is open for discussion.
Well put.
Thank you for all the work.
Well,
It's
Officer
a lot of work in there.
Hannigan is here,
A lot of effort.
and Officer
A lot of
Hannigan,
work in this.
yes,
Thank you very much.
and he's here to answer any questions, and the representatives of ATS are also here.
Yeah, thank you again, Bill. I really appreciate all the work you did on the study and everything else. I also want to thank Betty and Don Pike that sent out a email to the council people to look up a website called MissouriForSaferRoads.com, and it had a story about, it was called Kayla's story, about a 10-year-old girl that was killed in Arnold and that. And I want to tell you that safety is very important to me. And of all people to worry about this, I'm one. My cousin was killed by a person running through a red light, going through a red light. And he was charged with possession of marijuana, DWI, imprudent driving, and eventually manslaughter in St. Louis. The bottom line, if there would have been a red light camera there, it wouldn't have prevented the tragedy or accident. But if there was an officer that would have seen him driving erratic and stop him before he got to the intersection, she may be still here right now as we speak. I don't think the red light cameras save lives.
Yes. As most of the people in the council know, I spend a lot of time doing research. I have spent a huge amount of time since the last meeting. And I'd like to thank Don and Betty also, because it got me to take a look at things that I really didn't realize. If you take a look at the article that was on the website, even Kayla's mother said that the man that ran the red light was fiddling with his radio, and that he hadn't been aware that there was even a light there, and ran through it. The irony here is that the worst he would have got is a ticket in the mail 3 weeks later, asking him to pay the $100 fine for the red light. That wouldn't have eliminated the death either. But I found interesting when you looked at the website and you went to the adjoining article to its right. It was written by Scott Carlton, and when you looked who Scott Carlton was, he was a consultant for ATI, the traffic ticket company, American Traffic Solutions. And what he commented is that from experience, he was T-boned in an accident in Columbia, driving down Providence Boulevard. And if you've ever been in Columbia, Providence Boulevard is a very wide street, probably 4 lanes or 2 lanes each way in the center, crazy left turn lane. And so I can understand what when he got there. But his comment was that the teenage male driver bounded from his vehicle and rushed to check me out. I never saw the light. I never saw that damn light, he explained. Again, inattention. It wasn't the red light camera that would have kept him from hitting, that individual. The irony of that story is he was on the way to the Show Me games, and he was just excited that he was going to the game. So I guess, the solution to that is we ought to get rid of the Show Me games because it created a hindrance for him driving through a red light. It's the same analogy that they use with the traffic, American Traffic Solutions, ATS. I guess the sad part of Kayla's story was she didn't die because her car was T-boned. She died because she was not seatbelted. And she was thrown from the vehicle and the car landed on top of her and crushed her. That's a horrible way to die. But they didn't tell you that story. You had to go investigate it and find it. When you took a look at ATS and what they're involved in the chief's report, he had a number of accidents, and I'm actually going to pass a sheet out that I congratulated Bill when I came in tonight, Officer Hannigan, because it was a huge report. But a technique that I learned a long time ago is to really begin to focus on something is you create what's called a scatter diagram. And in a scatter diagram, you take a look at all of the incidents and you merely put a little X or a circle and to try and take a look at what the real cause is. Because you get caught in the minutia of reading 12 pages of following too close, inattention, and let's see, I'll pass them out, but what you're going to see is these are the Washington accidents from Highway 100 and Highway 47. And I took a look at all 6 years, and I took Officer Hannigan's sheet, and in the very first case in 2005, accident 1 from his sheet says they were following too close. Okay? It's pretty simple. But you take a look at the top following too close area. That's where all of the activity is. Now, we put the cameras in to reduce the number of people that ran through the red lights. Am I correct? I mean, Connie, you were on the council. Is that the reason we did it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Okay. Then let's take a look at, go a little further down, and where it says failed to yield, violated the signal. Do you see the dots there? It's only 2% of the accidents were caused by somebody violating the signal in 2005. It goes to 12 and it drops to 2, but it never exceeds 12%. So we put lights in. We continue to fleece people out of $500,000 to stop people running lights, and that's not our issue there. Our issue in that intersection is following too close and inattention. If you take just the two categories that Officer Hannigan report shows, we end up with about 85% of the accidents in that intersection is either following too close or inattention. And when you start looking at national, and I've looked at national, and I'm happy to share them with you. Here's 2 reports that were created by colleges that looked at them, and they've come to the conclusion that red light cameras do not solve; they create problems, additional accidents, additional injuries created. And interesting, and I guess I want to ask you, Chief. One of the things that I discovered is ATS usually, when they put their cameras in, ask us to change our grid of how we count accidents. We didn't do that.
I was never asked to change anything.
Okay. Well, they talk about, and there'll be some, I'll cite them in where they are, but that prior to the cameras going in, they counted accidents 208 feet from the intersection or to the intersection.
They, as in the police department?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
ATS asked, after the cameras get in, that they only count 50 feet, which tends to look at the
Who
number.
did they ask that of?
That's what's reported.
Reported where?
I'm going to give you that. I'm going to give you that source. I'm curious. They didn't ask us to do that.
No.
Okay. But you look at the numbers. The numbers dropped from previously. If you look at the 3 years before and the 3 years after, if you flip the page over, we saw a 2% decrease or 3% increase, which is exactly what the national average is. Whether we had a camera at that intersection or not, traffic accidents have decreased roughly 2 to 3%. So the cameras have not been effective. Then you start looking at ATS as a company and see some of the shenanigans that they've been involved in. It reminds me when we looked at subsidized housing and some of the shenanigans that were going on with that issue. But